1. I work at a rather famous home supply and maintenance store. I won't say the name just in case. But to set the scene, a month or so ago, Karen and her husband came in to buy an appliance. They happened to come in on a very busy day, and we only had 2 people in appliances, one of whom was going on her lunch. Well, apparently Karen wasn't happy that a couple of men who'd already been waiting were served ahead of her, and pitched a tantrum, even going so far as to go up to the girl leaving for her lunch, who was no longer in uniform, and talking to another employee and berating her for ignoring her. The girl told her multiple times she wasn't on the clock, and Karen informed her it didn't matter. She would help her right then. The girl told her that she could wait or take her business elsewhere, and went about her business. This apparently pissed off Karen and her husband, as he proceeded to call customer service. I happened to be covering their desk, and began yelling at me that he was a goddamn man, and that we were going to serve other men before his wife. We wouldn't fracking serve him first. I laughed at him, said that's not how things work, and hung up the phone. We don't take abuse at my store, I definitely refuse to, and the managers generally support us in that. The funny part, our town has a local Facebook page where you can post reviews and events, and Karen decided to make a massive post about what happened. Only she actually didn't. She twisted it so that it seemed she had been purposely ignored. She hadn't. She just didn't want to wait in line. Denied service, she wasn't. She confronted and cursed out a teenage employee who was off the clock, and she and her husband had been verbally abused by every employee in store. They had only spoken to the girl and me, and neither of us abused them. We were both abused. Of course, at first she got sympathy from a lot of women of the same mentality. A lot of "no one wants to work anymore" comments. But one of our cashiers happened to be told about it and showed me. I'm petty. I'll admit it beforehand, but I made a fake Facebook account. I don't do social media much beyond lurking on Reddit, and joined the town's page. Needless to say, I first commented in explicit detail everything that actually happened, including direct quotes from the girl. Then, to sink the "fuck you Karen" knife a little deeper, I copied my post and replied to every comment on her post. This isn't actually what happened. What happened is insert comment here. Within moments, the entire town turned on her, hundreds of comments calling her a liar and a horrid person. The next morning, the post was gone, and she's never returned to our store. Was I a bit of a Karen myself? Maybe. But when it comes to my fellow employees, I tend to fight petty fire with petty fire. 2. I'm seething, and so is my mom. He didn't even call us. Some background, I guess. When COVID first hit, my grandma ended up isolated with my grandpa at home, since my aunt moved out to a different state, and my mom and I didn't live close. She completely lost it and went nuts, to the point that she went from a chubby woman to someone at risk of having anorexia, and being deathly afraid of going to the bathroom for some reason. For the past few years, my mom and aunt have been doing what they can to get her better, and no one else has pitched in once, mind you. My mom, because she lived 2 hours away from my grandma's house, ended up taking the bigger portion of the responsibility, and all this time she has been working her ass off trying to get her better, forcing her to take her meds, keeping her seated until she finishes her plate, talking to her to keep her mind sharp, etc. She even brought her to our house to stay a few weeks every few months so we could actually see her frequently enough. Grandpa was always useless when it came to caring for her. For you to have an idea, my grandpa never did any of this at all, and it's no wonder Grandma went crazy with him. They're from a conservative family, where the wife always takes care of everything, and the husband brings in money, and he used to work the night shift as a security guard ever since I was a child. That means he spends most of his days sleeping, and when he's awake, he's utterly useless around the house. Doesn't do dishes, doesn't cook, doesn't clean shit. Just watches TV like a brainless idiot or abuses the kittens he brings from the street to hunt mice in his property. It's always been like this. I used to live with them when I was 7 and 8 years old, and he did the exact same thing. I was a kid back then, so I never noticed how much of an ass he was. But I can see now that he didn't care that much about his children or grandchildren either. to the point we'd at most eat peanuts together on the sidewalk in silence, and nothing else. And he also never visited my cousins, who literally lived on the same street, a few houses down. But I digress. Thing is, Grandma had been getting worse, and 2 days ago she passed away due to health complications. I was broken, and so was Mom, because Mom had been planning on bringing her home again with us when her issues flared up, and she had to get taken to hospital. Can you guess who refused to take her there even though she was having trouble breathing the day before? In any case, her death was very sudden, and we were really lost. We were expecting a day or two to think by ourselves. We thought Grandpa still had to organize himself and get off his ass for once in his life. That is, until my mom got a phone call from an aunt from Grandpa's side of the family, grilling us for not showing up to the funeral a day after Grandma's death. Can you fucking guess what happened? Grandpa organized the whole funeral by himself in a day, paying out of pocket from his lottery funds. He won a small sum a month ago, and he called everyone from his side of the family, but not from Grandma's. Literally no one. Not a single person that she knew and loved. That piece of shit knew that my aunt, his daughter, was still stuck on an 11-hour drive all the way home to attend the funeral, and he still held it anyway. He didn't call us to say where it was or when, didn't warn us at all, and we wouldn't have even known if Aunt hadn't called to chew us out 10 minutes before Grandma was to be buried. Suffice to say, my aunt got there yesterday late at night, and she and Mom visited the closed grave since they couldn't attend the actual funeral. Grandpa's side of the family has been bad-mouthing us like we're at fault, when they hadn't even called Grandma once while she was down the gutter mentally. Not even to say hello in 3 years. I hope karma gets to them, and I hope Grandpa is happy being alone forever. He's not going to see any of his grandkids again, not even my 3-month-old baby sis, and his house is going to stay empty. Have fun doing all the housework you pushed on Grandma for her whole life. Maybe ask your dear family to come around and help. We're cutting them all off, effective immediately. And now I'm just angry, man. I wasn't going to go because I didn't want to replace the image of my alive grandma with one of her in a coffin. But watching my mom cry while having to mourn through badly taken pictures of her in a casket really shook me. Three. When I was in college, I used to work for Walmart, initially as a courtesy clerk. The town I lived in easily exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit during the summer months. By state law, the store had to give us a 5-minute break inside to cool down after 2 rounds of collecting carts, and provide us with beverages so we can stay hydrated. The beverage they usually gave us was Gatorade. This is relevant to the story. After working for a couple of hours, it was time for me to take my first official 50-minute break. I filled a cup with Gatorade and proceeded to make my way to the break room. There was a bit of a blind spot walking past the registers, so I stopped and looked both ways down the aisle to make sure I wouldn't accidentally bump into anyone. The closest person to me was one of our regular shoppers, an older lady, the Karen of this story, who had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or Lou Gehrig's disease, the same condition Stephen Hawking had. Because of this, she had to use an electric wheelchair and lived at a local assisted living center. Due to her condition, there were 2 rules she had to follow whenever she shopped at the store in order to prevent accidental collisions with people. 1, she must always be accompanied by an employee from the assisted living center whenever she shopped at the store. 2, she had to keep the wheelchair's speed to one of the lowest settings. Knowing these rules and seeing how far down the aisle she was, I knew I could get across quickly enough before she got anywhere near me. After taking a step or 2 out into the aisle, I noticed 2 things. 1, she was not being accompanied by an employee of the assisted living center. 2, she was driving her wheelchair much faster than she was supposed to. She was on a collision course with me, so instinctively I tried to jump back out of the way to avoid getting hit, but it was too late. She hits me while I was in the air. I fell to the ground and spilled my Gatorade all over the wheelchair. The lady loses control of the chair and starts spinning around in circles. She's flailed her arms and screamed with what limited mobility she had, and nearly hit me a second time. but I managed to roll out of the way. I knew I had to try to stop her before she hit someone else. So I grabbed the handlebar on the back of the wheelchair, hoping I could at least slow her down. That didn't work. Instead, she dragged me around in circles in the middle of the aisle. Several co-workers and shoppers quickly rushed in and stopped the lady, who seemed to be okay, just startled. But when I tried to stand up, 2 male shoppers held me down. One of them leaned over me and said, "You're gonna be alright, sir. Everything's gonna be just fine." He turned his head and yelled, "I need a first aid kit." I could hear a lady in the background, "Oh my God, somebody call 911!" I just lay there and wondered what the hell happened to me. Sure, I was going to have a nice bruise on my hip from when I hit the floor, but besides that, I felt fine. I quickly discovered why the customers were panicking. The flavor of the Gatorade we had that day was fruit punch. Some of it splashed on my face when the lady hit me. The customers who witnessed the incident thought I busted my head open when I hit the ground. I had to assure them that it was not blood, it was just Gatorade, and that I was fine. A member of management eventually showed up to document the incident. After I gave him my statement, I was finally able to take my break. I was even given an extra 5 to 10 minutes, so I could clean up and recuperate from what had just happened. This was where I thought the story would end. I was wrong. A couple of weeks later, I was called back to the manager's office. The store manager, Kate, and several assistant managers were in there waiting for me. Kate told me to take a seat and asked if I remembered the incident from a few weeks ago with the lady in the electric wheelchair and the Gatorade. I chuckled and said, "How can I forget?" That lady was just in my office. She had a lawyer. She wanted to sue the store, claiming she had suffered mental distress from the incident. And as part of her lawsuit, she wanted your employment with the company terminated, claiming you were the one responsible for the collision. I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But Kate quickly put my mind at ease by saying, "Don't worry, you're not in any trouble. We showed the lady and her lawyer the security footage from the incident. I reminded her of the rules she knew she had to follow whenever she shopped at the store to prevent collisions from happening, but she decided to break them anyways, and that she should consider herself lucky that she hit a store employee who only suffered a minor injury, because if she had hit a customer, and that customer suffered a serious injury, she would be held responsible for the collision, and would have a major lawsuit on her hands. The assisted living center would also be at fault for somehow allowing her to leave the center on her own without their notice. But if she still wanted to sue, she can try, but she will not win." Karen's lawyer knew she didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning this one, so the two of them left. Kate said that since I was the employee involved in the incident, she thought I would want to know what Karen attempted to do, and that I would get a kick out of it. I'll admit, it does add a nice punchline to the story, but I wished I was in the manager's office to witness a Karen and her lawyer's encounter with Kate and the rest of the store managers. 4. With the new Super Mario Bros. Movie opening in theaters soon, I thought I should share this story from when I worked at good old Wally World around the mid-2000s. I was filling in at the electronics department. It was a slow day, and I was standing in the middle of the department waiting for a customer to assist. Finally, a middle-aged woman, the Karen of the story, walks in. I approached her and asked how I can help her. "I want to purchase the new Super Mario Bros. Game." I said not a problem. I led her to the Nintendo cabinet, opened it and pulled out a copy of the game. But Karen said, "No, not that one." I responded, "Ma'am, this is the newest copy of Super Mario Bros." "No, I want Super Mario for the PlayStation." I informed her that Mario is a Nintendo licensed property, and that it is not sold on PlayStation. She responded, "Yes, it is. I saw a commercial advertising it for the PlayStation, and that's what I want to buy." I tried my best to tell her that she did not see a commercial advertising Mario for the PlayStation. Of course, this went as well as you expected. She shouted, "Don't tell me what I did or didn't see. I know I saw a commercial advertising Mario for the PlayStation, and that's what I want." I showed her the copyright logo on the game case, stating that Mario was a Nintendo licensed game, but she still refused to believe me. So I led her to our PlayStation display case and said, "Ma'am, this is the current selection of PlayStation games for sale. As you can see, there are no copies of Super Mario Bros. So even if you are right, we just don't carry copies of the game here." With this, I hoped she would just accept that we didn't sell copies of the game for the PlayStation and walk away. But if she did, I wouldn't be posting here. Instead, she started accusing me of stealing all the copies of Mario Bros. For the PlayStation to sell online at double the cost so I can make a profit. Dumbfounded, I asked what the hell she was basing this off of. Realizing I wasn't going to get through to her, I called over a coworker for assistance. I turned to the coworker and said, "You don't know the conversation I've had with this lady?" He nods yes. I turned to the Karen and said, "There is no way I could have prompted him on what you wanted coming into this department. So with that in mind, please ask my coworker what you want." Karen turns to my coworker and tells him that she wanted the newest Super Mario Bros. On the PlayStation. He tells her the same thing I did, that Mario isn't sold on PlayStation consoles. But of course, she lumps my coworker into the conspiracy that the two of us must be stealing all the copies of the game for PlayStation and selling them online at double the cost. The department manager finally sees the scene Karen was making. He rushes over, tries to calm her down, and tell her that Super Mario Bros. Isn't sold on PlayStation. But she lumps him in on it, and as the department manager accused him of being the ringleader of the operation. Cue the crocodile tears as she says, "All I wanted to do was buy a copy of Super Mario Bros. For the PlayStation for my son's birthday. But you monsters have ruined his and countless other children's birthdays by stealing the game from the store so you can sell them online at double the cost. Well, Walmart has lost a valued customer this day. I'm going to go to another store, find a copy of Super Mario Bros. For the PlayStation, bring it back here, and expose you all." Karen began to storm off, but I couldn't let her get the last word in. I yelled back, "Ma'am, go ahead and try to find a copy of Super Mario Bros. For the PlayStation at a different store. If you can, bring it back here, and I will give you my next paycheck." Needless to say, we never saw or heard from her again. Guess she wasn't able to find Super Mario Bros. For the PlayStation after all. 5. In September of 2022, our friends, a pathological liar and her partner, a spineless enabler, just bought a house. They don't have much in the way of funds. Cool, no worries, I sympathize. These friends are also trying for a baby, but polycystic ovary syndrome gets in the way of that. My girlfriend sympathizes even though we ourselves are child-free, and wonders what she could do to relieve our friend's stress a little bit. It so happens that they want to visit us in Krakow, Poland. We moved there almost 2 years ago. It's where my girlfriend is from, and there are 1,500 kilometers between us now. Polish hospitality is a bit different than it is in Belgium, where I am from. They go above and beyond and make guests comfortable. My girlfriend wants to show them the Tatry area. As she knows the friends are low on funds, she assembled a couple of hotel options. Looks at cheap flights, carefully organizes everything. Because I kind of feel bad for them, I offer to prepay for their hotel. These friends choose the most expensive hotel option. My girlfriend watches the weather, even buys those mini crampons for the guests to use. There's suddenly a lot of snow in September, and even with the easy lower altitude hikes she planned, she wanted our guests to be safe. The friends are enthusiastic. They tell me they train and walk sometimes 15 kilometers a day to be fit for the hikes. They're really looking forward to the trip. 3 weeks before departure, tragedy strikes. When Pathological Liar has a miscarriage. Patience, she is called Pathological Liar for a reason. My girlfriend feels horrible for them and wants to accommodate them even more. She's worried that the friends will have a tough time after the flight because it was so early, so she wants to book an Uber for them, a smooth ride from the airport to the bus station. As a surprise, she wanted to buy puczki, a Polish donut cream thing, because they probably wouldn't have eaten breakfast at that point. And when Pathological Liar and Spineless Enabler are alive, Pathological Liar grabs the donuts without saying thanks, takes a bite out of one, and starts whining. "This is coconut cream. Ugh! I can't eat this." smacks it back in the box, and horfs down this other donut with chocolate. But we feel sorry for them because of the miscarriage, so we let it go. The whole way there, she moans about her miscarriage, how she has to take antibiotics for it, how tough her new job is, and how unfair it is that everyone at her old jobs always would bully her. At her old jobs, they always fired her without reason at all. I had to bite my tongue when she claimed there was no reason, and stuff like that just happens. Remember, we are child-free. We know nothing about pregnancy and miscarriages and whatnot, but apparently she lost a lot of blood during the miscarriage and has to take antibiotics for 2 whole weeks. My girlfriend is worried and asks her if she's okay, and she answers, "Oh, okay, it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't in the hospital for long. Not even an hour." Every time they talk about the miscarriage, they look away and change the subject as fast as possible. The whole 2-hour bus ride to the town, Pathological Liar moans and whines at the top of her voice. She is also the type to start bursting out into song in the most inappropriate of places. The sound of her voice is a gift and we are unworthy. Then she drops this. "Also, Exact Archer, we have forgotten our credit cards and also forgot to exchange some cash. You don't mind paying for it, right? We will pay you back." They're dealing with a lot, so I let it slide. I agree, and even lend them a credit card of mine. Between all the whining, she moans about her asthma and how bad it can get. I have asthma, so I can sympathize. I ask her what inhaler she has on her right now. "Oh, none." Girlfriend panics. She really doesn't want to take the risk of hiking with someone with asthma without an inhaler. Girlfriend says we could go to the pharmacy to buy an inhaler. Maybe she uses the same one as me, and I could provide a prescription. Pathological Liar says her asthma isn't that bad. She doesn't need an inhaler, and my girlfriend is overreacting. Crying out loud. We arrive at the hotel. Pathological Liar looks down on the hotel, which she chose herself, and sticks her nose up at every restaurant my girlfriend suggests we eat at. Pass at everything while my girlfriend tries to appease her. She dramatically whines about a severe throat ache when she can blabber about herself. Her voice is suddenly magically healed. We still think she miscarried, so we let it slide. Next day, one of the first hikes my girlfriend has planned was to the Kosciuszko Valley, an easy, flat hike accessible for everyone. Both Pathetic Liar and Spineless Enabler says yes, we will go. So off we go. They fall behind the first couple of meters. Girlfriend wants to know what is wrong, as we're already being passed by grannies and kids. Pathetic Liar has the nerve to tell her she is really pushing her to her limits. Didn't horrible girlfriend know that she is sick and tired? Girlfriend isn't accommodating poor Pathetic Liar. She just can't listen. My girlfriend had asked multiple times if it was cool that we go. She said yes, always very enthusiastically. She doesn't get it. Why did they say yes when she actually didn't want to go? Pathetic Liar pretends she said no, but my girlfriend wouldn't listen. She lets it slide. She blames the miscarriage hormones. For the rest of the days, Pathetic Liar pretends she is really deathly ill and so poorly. But she only does this when attention isn't 100% on her. She, of course, gets better when she can brag about the fancy hotel she works in, her super rich daddy, who has a spa that costs 700 euros, sure, for a day visit. Decibels go up, ×3. She walks 2 times faster and suddenly is all smiles. She badgers my girlfriend all the time. Where are we eating? What will we be doing? She sticks her nose up at every suggestion, and is moody the whole time. Except when she talks about herself. She says yes to every suggestion, but there's always something wrong in the end, and it's always my girlfriend's fault. Girlfriend's patience has been tested, and it comes to this. You know what, Pathetic Liar? You say yes to everything I suggest, and then act as if I forced you to do something you don't like. I just can't trust you anymore. Pathetic Liar bursts out in tears. Girlfriend needs to cool down, so she walks in front of us, while Spineless Enabler tries to console Pathetic Liar. She starts again on how my girlfriend is really pushing her to her limits. Apparently, she forces everyone to do what she wants. In point of fact, she always asks 3 times if it's really okay if we go on this hike, restaurant, whatever, very carefully. Pathetic liar always says yes, I would love to, fake smile included. I remind her of all this. Spineless enabler and I keep confronting her. It is Pathetic Liar's behavior that's really making this trip very tense. She throws a tantrum behind my girlfriend's back and says she should work on herself before she mingles with other people, because it's clear she has no manners and she has no idea how to treat other people. I'm enraged, but Spineless Enabler has been an old friend of mine, so I let it slide, and I don't tell my girlfriend what nonsense Pathetic Liar is spouting. We've been waiting months for this trip. Spineless Enabler apologizes weakly in her place and tries to ignore what happened as fast as possible. At the end of this hike, Pathetic Liar is so tired, almost falling asleep. Girlfriend still pities her. She gives her the last of the cash she had for her and Spineless Enabler to take a taxi to the hotel we would walk. She just grabs my girlfriend's money, gets in the taxi, and off they go. Spineless Enabler sends a thanks message later. Nothing from her. I don't say anything about the rant Pathetic Liar spouted about my girlfriend. Well, that was a big mistake. But I don't want to upset my girlfriend. She would definitely cancel the room and leave them in Poland without a credit card or cash. One time I see that Pathetic Liar gives Spineless Enabler one of her antibiotic pills. Wasn't this for her miscarriage? Weird. My girlfriend gets more miserable the whole trip. The more she tries to accommodate them, the more entitled they get. Next day, Pathetic Liar just stays in the hotel room all day and horfs pizza. In the end, my girlfriend wants to book a separate bus back and books a junior suite for them. They would be staying in our apartment in the guest room, but she can't take it anymore. Back in Krakow, I meet up with Spineless Enabler and Pathetic Liar because I want my credit card back. She apparently had a wonderful time and wants to go on more trips. You should have seen my face. She wants to go on more trips. What? I just stare at her and say nothing. The next day, when the friends are safe and silent on the airplane, I tell my girlfriend what she said behind her back. Of course she explodes in anger. She says she should have left them there and then. I knew that would be her reaction. She sends some angry texts confronting Pathetic Liar with her lies, calling her an ungrateful bitch, a liar, and a coward, and much more. Pathetic Liar sends a message back that charges girlfriend the full price of the trip for her rude messages and that now we're even. The audacity. She's not going to pay for a single cent of the trip? 400 euros per person. Girlfriend wonders if this was the plan all along. Just keep poking and expect a free trip if there's any pushback from us. Or them had to go through a miscarriage, right? I tell her I saw Pathetic Liar give Spineless Enabler an antibiotic pill. Does the man also need antibiotics for a miscarriage? She already had the nagging feeling that Pathetic Liar was lying to her and now knows for sure, so we went to Google. 14 days of that specific antibiotic treatment is the treatment for chlamydia. Both partners have to take it. This whole trip, girlfriend felt compassion for a dying chlamydia bacterium. Apparently, when you have a miscarriage and lose a lot of blood, this becomes a situation between life and death. It is very serious and requires hospitalization, but it doesn't require 14 days of antibiotics. In Pathetic Liar's words, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." Her miscarriage was allegedly 3 weeks before departure. She still had to take antibiotics for a week when meeting with us. It just doesn't add up. Also, she says yes to everything, and then has the nerve to say that she actually meant no. And lying about the asthma. Many more lies. Random lie 1. Apparently, she had to babysit for a couple of days. The baby didn't like its parents and was very naughty. Like what? It was a very good baby to Pathetic Liar and really liked her, because she is just the best baby caregiver ever. Of all the things that really happened, this happened the most. If a baby or toddler gets too loud near her, she gets enraged and starts making loud comments about the parents. According to her, babies are loud because of bad parents, but she loves babies and she would be the best parent to them. Every child on our trip was a bad child with bad parents. How dare it make a sound? She loves children, though. Random lie 2, she only has a specific time frame to get pregnant, and this time frame is closing. Random lie 3, pathetic liar felt her toe crack at a certain point on the hike. Makes a huge deal announcing it, but if girlfriend asked if she needed a doctor, then she's the one overreacting and nothing bad is happening.
No, you can't see it.
Other lies pathetic liar told start unraveling too once we start talking about it. My girlfriend feels very used and gross. She says they talked about the miscarriage for their own gain. They used empathy and that she feels violated. She gets angry at me. Why didn't I tell her about what pathetic liar said behind her back? She reminds me spineless enabler knew there was never a miscarriage and took the pills right in front of me because he thought I would never say anything about it. My girlfriend reminds me spineless enabler was in on it just as much as pathetic liar. That real friends would never act like that. I would never expect a friend to pay a whole trip in advance, take his credit card and pay for everything with it, and then to never ask when I should pay my friend back. In the end, spineless enabler did pay their share of the trip, but only when I explicitly demanded it. He messages us to never contact them again, blocking us. You can imagine my face when I realized I thought this person was a friend for 8 years. When I realized that I turned out to be an enabler. And I still see red when I remember this. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 108. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please do poke the like button before you go, I would appreciate it. Okay, this is... I don't know what day this is. I decide what day they're going to go up after I make them. Usually. Apart from the birthday shout-out, sometimes they go on specific days. Anyway, I don't think there's any other business, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... Are there items you purchase when grocery shopping that you literally just couldn't care less who makes them, you'll go for the best deal? Like with me, pasta and rice, don't care at all what company makes them, with the exception of one extra long basmati rice that I buy. I always buy a specific brand of that, but apart from that, couldn't care at all. Oftentimes I'll buy the cheapest store brand, I'll buy the slightly more expensive brand. Sometimes with pasta, I can find that it's worth paying a little bit more, but you don't have to go ridiculously high. And with rice, if it's just long grain rice you want, the cheapo store one's fine. Although basmati is super yummy. Please do let me know what you think in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. Possibly make some rice, we'll see. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.